Well, hello and welcome. My name is Brian Kaplan. I'm editor of The Banker magazine, and we're at the IMF World Bank annual meetings for 2011. I'm here with Herbert Stepic, who's the chief executive of Raiffeisen Bank International. Mr. Stepic, obviously your bank is very much focused on Central and Eastern Europe. A few years ago, at the start of the crisis, that didn't look such a good bet. But now we're in a different phase of the crisis, and suddenly the risk seems to have moved from east to west, and suddenly Eastern Europe has a much lower risk profile. Is that how you feel about it? Or are you this is more of a long-term game for you in any case, and cycles come and go?
I mean, the latter is due, of course. We always said we are following a long-term strategy in Central and Eastern Europe. But coming back to your question and statement, it's absolutely true that Central and Eastern European countries have used the time after Lehman thoroughly to restructure their economies, to bring the refinancing in order, to reduce their current account deficits. They have reached more or less the peaks in inflation. So in other words, we are talking about much, much better Central and Eastern European economies as we did before Lehman. And finally, we should not forget that in average, the indebtedness of Central and Eastern European economies are approximately half of the indebtedness of EU countries. So I would say from all these prerequisites, Central and Eastern Europe is in a quite good shape.
Now, it's not like this is a new strategy for your bank. I know you're celebrating 20 years in Poland. So, I mean, that's definitely given you a chance to really ensconce yourself in some of these markets and grow with them and mature with them. Is that right?
That's absolutely true. Going back to history, the first 10 years we have built greenfield operations, which made us finally very competitive because we didn't have to pay any premiums for acquisitions. The years after the year 2000, we had to acquire a few banks, and we did so quite successfully. The last acquisition, by the way, is our acquisition of Polbank in Poland, where we were subscale, and we found a bank with enormous synergies. Raiffeisen Bank Poland being more or less a mere commercial bank servicing large corporates, whereas Polbank is a bank that is servicing private individuals only. So that's an ideal fit, as a matter of fact. So all in all, with that acquisition, we have reached to be the largest banking operation in Central and Eastern European countries, with 3,300 branches in altogether 16 countries plus Austria. So I think we are very well set, and we are very satisfied with the economic and commercial development of the first 6 months.
And obviously the largest country in the region is Russia.
Yes.
And you have a very big presence there. But it's also the trickiest country to do business in many ways. I mean, there's still concern amongst many people in the international business community about the business environment and the lack of a level playing field and a proper rule of law system. I mean, how do you overcome those kinds of challenges, and what is your strategy for Russia?
You are absolutely true that we are the Western bank mostly geared towards Russia. We believe that the Russian economy has a huge potential. We are engaged with about 10% of our risk-weighted assets, producing more than 20% of our profit after tax. So it is also a very profitable country we're working with, and that's already the answer for the risk what you have. You always have to evaluate risk and return, or return after risk to be more precise. So we have been doing very well, except in the very first year before we started even at the Russian crisis in 1998, when while we have been trying to safeguard our capital from devaluation, and made foreign exchange operations with the largest banks. That, of course, was not a good idea at that time. So, but coming back to your statement, yes, Russia is important. We have a prime position in the country, 43 regions we cover with our branches, 11 time zones, a well-diversified business structure, starting with large corporates, middle market customers, private individual. Also that business has restarted again. The risk I covered, yes, what is the risk? It's rule of law. It is some criminal forces, it is corruption, that's it, more or less. But you've
learned how to deal with that.
No, we don't have to do with it as a bank, thanks to God. Yes, we have to do with the rule of law, but thanks to God, not with corruption. We are left alone with that as a foreign bank. And I have to say that taking all the pitfalls into consideration and comparing it with the possible outcome, it is still a very good market to be in.
Okay, now when we met last year, you were explaining to me about the restructuring of the bank.
Yes.
And how this would provide a more universal banking model for a wider range of customers. 1 year on, how is that progressing now?
I go one step back even. We were criticized from some of the analysts at that time. Why, for heaven's sake, we are active and actively going in such a merger, which is diluting our CE pure only play. We said it makes sense for the reasons that you mentioned. Just to repeat it, to make use of the product factory that we had at that time in RZB Old, also for the entire 360 million people we are servicing now through Raiffeisen Bank International. Number two, the access to the capital market under one umbrella. We didn't have that. We didn't have direct access to the debt capital market. We have had to draw our refinancing needs through RZB Old. And I think also the governance, the new governance that we can service a customer from the center region-wide is a huge advantage, what we didn't have before.
Okay, so you're starting to reap some benefits from
that turned out to be very beneficial. We could prove all the critics wrong with, first of all, very low non-performing loans, beefing up our results, and finally ending in the Austrian segment, which of course comprises also international customers, with ROE north of 20%. So I think it is a very attractive, finally it was a very attractive proposition that we materialized.
Well, let me pick you up on that ROE. I mean, yesterday you were making a presentation to investors, and I asked you then, you said the ambition is to have an ROE between 15 and 20%.
Yes.
That's different from what most other bankers tell me is feasible, but perhaps you have a better prospect because of the high growth markets that you're in.
I think if we would go along with most of the forecasts of the crowd of the bankers with roughly 12% or even lower, then I think the market would not be very happy. Is that unrealistic, what I'm proposing or what we announced? What we announced? No, it is not. Because frankly speaking, the growth perspective of our region where we are active in is very positive. Also mid-term, and we are talking about a mid-term objective up to 2015. The average growth is approximately 2% over higher than in average the EU zone will be growing within the same period of time. So that automatically means more business in banking. And if I combine the higher growth rates, economic growth rates, with the banking scenery in the three major regions where we are operating in, where the banking penetration is terrifically low still in comparison to EU countries, then you have both factors that make me very confident that the business model, the region and the business model as such, is so beneficial that we will be able to perform the goals that you have just outlined.
Now, yesterday you also said you were a bit unhappy about the costs.
Yes.
Your cost income is about 55%.
Yes.
So what do you want to do in order to bring that down, and where do you think you'll get it to, and where are the areas that you're going to take out the cost?
I mean, if the economy is running slow, and that's more the tendency we are going to, or we're heading to, then of course the only other alternative is to become ever more efficient and reduce costs. So that has to be always the second view. I mean, on one side you have to look for more business, on the other side you have to look for more efficiency. Efficiency becomes ever more important in the future. We have huge efficiency programs running not only from that year onwards. We started already in mid-2009 with these programs, quality programs about sales, efficiency programs about execution, time to market, God knows what. Enormous risk management engagements that we have been taking up in the entire group, and what have you. What is counterproductive, though, is the enormous work that we are confronted with coming from the regulators. The regulators are requesting enormous additional red tape from us, which of course contradicts any sort of savings, cost savings, and also efficiency.
Okay. Now, clearly the topic of the conference this year has been the Eurozone.
Yes.
And it obviously impacts on you in some ways. So, I mean, finally, are you kind of more optimistic that we're going to find a solution to it in the next few weeks or months, or do you think it has to get worse before it even gets better?
Unfortunately, while I'm optimistic about my business model and my area and Eastern European markets as such, I'm less optimistic about the possibility to find a fast solution on that very complicated topic we are talking about. First of all, you're absolutely right. We have, practically speaking, almost no peripheral risks in our balance sheet, which is quite comfortable at present times. I think you agree. On the other side, I would be an illusionist denying that also central, specifically southeastern European countries will be somewhat affected by negative movements of Greece and what have you, because they are neighboring countries and they are trading partners. So indirectly, yes, in some of the areas, thanks to God, only in the less important part of our companies or banks that we are operating. I fear that it is a very difficult task for politicians, and therefore I don't blame them even. It's very difficult because there is no written rules and laws how really to deal with such a situation we are in now. And in most of the countries, there is a rather negative tendency towards EU countries. So whatever you ask decision makers in Parliament to be changed, which is a sort of burden for the taxpayer, i.e. population, won't get easily a majority. In some of the countries won't get a majority due to the prevailing political scenery that exists. So here I'm absolutely with you, i.e. less optimistic, i.e. it will take more time, and therefore the solution of Greece to stretch maturities in order to win time is the only way to allow politicians really to find a solution which is then more appropriate also for other countries to come.
Okay. Thank you very much. On that less optimistic note, we'll leave it there, and we'll hope that there'll be some better news by the time we meet at the IMF World Bank meetings in 2012 in Japan.